Good Sunday morning. You're listening to Access Houston. I'm your host, KG Smooth. This is so exciting. Welcoming in the studio. You've seen him on television representing basically all of the fallen soldiers that have died at the hands of police just for being black and unarmed. The Trayvon Martin case, Sandra Bland.
Michael Brown.
Did you? Okay, I thought so. Mike Brown, which was the very first one, and he has a new book out called "Legalized Genocide of Colored People." Open season, ladies and gentlemen. Attorney Benjamin L. Crump. Ben Crump is on Access Houston. How you doing?
Hey,
man?
good, man. Honored to be with you, KG.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Please know that.
Thank you.
The title of your book, Legalized Genocide of Colored People, Open Season, could not be a more factual title.
Yes, sir.
Because I feel as if that's exactly what's going on.
Yep. And you know, KG, right now, open season killings on people of color seems to be an epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Really, when you think about in the last 12 months, how many new hashtags have we come to know in America?
Too many for me to even remember.
It's just unbelievable. So what inspired me to write this book, KG, was that the publishing company was trying to get me to write something about Trayvon, write something about Michael Brown, or do something autobiographic. I said, I'm too young to do that. But when I was in Ferguson, Missouri, in the aftermath of the killing of Michael Brown, where all the young Black Lives Matter activists were out there protesting, and then they called in the National Guard. And I remember specifically, KG, this young brother who was out there, he was fearless. The National Guard had their assault rifles aimed at him center mass. He walked right up to them with his nose almost touching the tip of the rifle. And he said, go ahead and kill me now with all these cameras out here because y'all gonna kill us when they go. So kill me now so the world can see how y'all are killing us. And I was like, whoa, that was riveting to me. And I said, you know, the young brother is right. It is important that the world see how they're killing us, but not just with these high-profile police shootings with bullets, but more poignantly, how they're killing us every day in every city, in every state, in every courtroom across America with these trumped-up felony convictions. I mean, and I do mean trumped up, KG, and once you get a felony conviction, your life has changed. And people don't understand how that is a slow death when they kill you with the law, the same law that was supposed to protect you.
You know, I was on the air the Sunday after Mike Brown was shot and killed. I was on the air on Magic. I remember it specifically because I had seen some things on Twitter. And so my brother went to school in St. Louis. He actually lived in that neighborhood. He didn't know it was called Ferguson because there's so many small pockets. Like you go down 2 blocks, you're in, you know, a whole nother neighborhood. And so
that was white flight, by the way.
Yeah. So I had called him because he was either picking up my niece from the summer or dropping her off because he was either or. I called him and I was like, bro, what is the pulse of the city there? He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, you hadn't heard about this young man, Michael Brown? They shot him yesterday. They left his body out in the streets for like 4 hours. Like it's going to be a thing. And so he called his homeboy Donald, and I called Donald, and he was actually down at the first protest that was at the police station on that Sunday. I still have that interview. I remember the day. It was August 9th, 2014. And I remember telling the Houston audience, I said, this is going to be a big deal. Let's watch out for this.
Yeah.
And it ended up being just that, the catalyst to Black Lives Matter, the start to everything that we have been seeing. And so it's just mind-boggling that we still have to play this game.
Yeah. And you know what's so sad, because I talk to Michael Brown parents almost weekly, and you know there's still a hole in Leslie's heart
Absolutely.
that will never be filled. But the thing that's always riveting to me about that is not only how tragic it was they killed him, but how tragically the law then killed him. I mean, it was like they assassinated his character. He had to die all over again. When they brought that police tape out and had those dogs barking, you had all those black people there who had to wait over 4 hours while his mother was crying and trying to get to him to give him some humanity, but yet they had those dogs still keeping everybody back, and you're like, why would you keep them out there for 4 hours?
I couldn't understand that.
It's just, it makes no sense,
And
even
not
to
even
this
covered
day.
up. And then they finally covered him up.
Yeah. And can you imagine if that's your child, though?
No.
I mean, your child is laying on the ground with blood pooling out of his head, and the police are telling you can't get to your child. It don't make no sense whatsoever.
And then a few years later, when the I don't know if you've checked out or were you even in it, the documentary that's on Stars.
Yeah, I was.
That
the Ferguson cover up.
Yes, that just
I was
opened my
about to
eyes, because when you see it, I was like, okay, he had a rapport with the owners of this store. They had some sort of business exchange, because, you know, the way they put all of that together, I was like, okay, this man didn't steal nothing. He was coming back to get what he was owed.
No question about it. And it's so much more to the story. There's a reason they settled out of court with us civilly. They did not want that evidence to come in that courtroom because it would have exposed too many people. But more importantly, it would have exposed the law. And that's what I really think is the second death of Michael Brown, when you saw 14 black people say he has his hands up, and everybody started chanting, hands up, don't shoot. But they took the word of the white police officer who killed an 18-year-old teenager over 14 black eyewitnesses in broad daylight, and they didn't even let it get to a jury. They didn't even charge the officers. I mean, they stopped it in this secret grand jury proceeding, and it's the intellectual justification of discrimination that we talk about in the book, of them legalizing how the law is used to kill us, whether it's the lawmakers, the prosecutors, the police, all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court.
You're listening to Access Houston. We are talking to attorney Ben Crump. He is in the building. His new book, Legalized Genocide of Colored People, Open Season, is out right now. So how do you feel about the state of the black community right now? With all that we have seen, everything that has been going on, we've marched, we've protested, we're calling for social change. People are saying, like, you know, the justice system is broken. We've got to fix it. I personally believe that the justice system is not broken. I believe that it is working exactly how they want it to work. We haven't yet. Well, a little bit. I'll take that back, because I'm living in Houston and I see the change here in Houston, and black and people of colors here in Houston. We understand that it starts locally.
Absolutely.
So voting locally to change the things, because, you know, they want us to stay up on the national side. But no, you got to worry about what's going on in your own backyard.
Exactly.
So how do you feel like the state of black community is now?
Well, I think two things. I think, as Johnny Cochran said, it's a journey to justice. And on that journey, we're going to take some steps forward and we're going to take steps back. Obviously, with the election of 45 in the White House, we've taken steps back.
Yeah.
He's trying to do everything to
undo everything that Obama did.
Undo it all.
Now he's a Russian agent.
You talking about Obama? KG, he trying to do everything, undo everything that Lincoln did.
Oh, come
you know,
okay.
When you think about this guy and the things he's, you know, proclaiming. So I think we're making progress, though. I was one of the attorneys with who represented the family of Botham Jones over in Dallas.
Yeah.
And after that conviction, which was a historic milestone because it represented the first time that a white policewoman had been convicted of first-degree murder for killing a black person in America. And so it was progress. And in the interview afterwards, I said this verdict is not just for Botham's family. It is for Trayvon Martin. It's for Michael Brown. It's for Tamir Rice, for Sandra Bland, for Alton Sterling, for Lando Castillo, Eric Gardner, Laquan McDonald. You know, all these people, Terrence Crutcher, who it was obvious their killing was unjustifiable and unnecessary. It was for all of them because with each case, those high-profile cases, I believe it raises the consciousness level that black lives do matter. And I want to believe that jury knew from those other cases that everybody was watching them. And so they say, we got to give the same consideration to this black victim that we give to this white victim. Now, with that said, it's a journey to justice because the punishment does not fit the crime with Amber Geiger. You know, this white lady who went into his apartment, killed this young man while he was legally watching television, minding his own business. She only gets 10 years. 10 years. And she'll probably be out in 5 years.
I heard that she's trying to appeal since, got, what's my man's name? The key witness who ended up shot and murdered.
Well, we haven't Joshua Brown.
There we go, Joshua Brown.
They have not appealed yet, so
they haven't.
Yeah,
okay.
So we don't want to speculate until we know for certain. But I will say this: the punishment doesn't fit the crime. When you think about KG, there are black and brown people sitting in prisons now for 10, 20, 25 years for selling marijuana, a nonviolent crime, didn't kill anybody. This woman killed a person, and she wants America to have all the sympathy in the world, all the compassion for her, but yet these people who didn't kill anybody are sitting in prison for selling marijuana. And now when you really think about it, what we talk about with open season, we try to hold a mirror to America's face and say, look at the hypocrisy. Because now that marijuana is legal in most states in America, you literally think about the government is in the business of selling weed to make money, to pay their bills. Now, when black people were selling weed to make money, to pay their bills, they put all of us in prison.
That's right.
And so it's hypocrisy when you think about it.
At its highest.
We object in open season to the government being able to make any profit until they let all the black and brown people and everybody else who's in prison for selling marijuana, because other than that, it's just hypocrisy.
What state did that? Was that New York that let all of those guys out?
Well, it hasn't happened yet in New Jersey, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
It hasn't happened yet. Because like everything, and we talk about this, and the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, the so-called Civil Rights Amendments, freed the slave, gave the right to vote, you know, all this stuff. Within 20 years of those laws passing, the United States Supreme Court had effectively neutralized all those laws. So like in New Jersey, they're coming up with these red herrings not to let those brothers out. They come up with some technical, intellectual justification. In the state of Florida, I'm sure you heard because you're a woke brother, KG, where in Florida, 1.4 million people, mostly black and brown people, could not vote because they were convicted felons. And we got it on the ballot on a referendum to say, you got to let them vote. And it passed. And the time it passed, you know what the Supreme Court is upholding right now in Florida? Well, the Republicans who control the governor's mansion and both houses, they said, well, y'all can vote. We got that. The referendum said y'all can vote. However, you all have to pay the fines that were incurred from court costs and prison fines, which are approximately on average about $5,000 to $10,000. So what brothers and sisters you know are going to come up with $5,000 to $10,000 so they can vote? It's like a poll tax. That's the game. I mean, it is legalized, systematic. Every opportunity they get, they try to legitimize it and say, but it's legal what we're doing. How can you argue with us? You got to pay your fines. And you're saying, well, hold on. How about the Constitution being enforced here that every American citizen has a right to a democratic form of government where we get to pick who our leaders are. Not that you effectively disenfranchise the majority of black and brown people from being able to participate in who the leaders are going to be.
That's why my argument is always when people say, oh, I ain't vote, my vote doesn't matter. Well, if your vote don't matter, why do they keep making it harder for you to vote? You got to jump through all these hoops to do that. If your vote don't matter, clearly your voice means something if they're doing this. But on the whole marijuana thing, what really, really just blows me away is the fact that what you said that the government is making the money.
Untold fortunes. I mean, they're gonna make billions.
And these folks can't even get off. Oh my gosh, why am I having a senior moment during this conversation? My point is leaving me, but I just saw that Oklahoma. They're making steps towards letting folks out with their justice reform when it comes to marijuana.
But you got to remember this, KG, and I talk about this. At the end of the day, the prison industrial complex is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is, in my opinion, and I express it a lot in the book, it is an extension of slavery. You know, America became one of the leading financial nations, if not the leading financial, most prosperous nation in the world, based on the fact that they had free labor.
Thank you.
If you can have a business and you don't have to pay labor costs,
of
I mean, all you make is profit.
That's right.
And so when you think about the prison industrial complex, as long as there's a financial incentive,
I remember my
they're
point.
going to keep black and brown people and even some white people, poor white people, because it is about money. It is about capital. And so this school to prison pipeline is based on this fact that I don't care, police, you're the low man on the totem pole, prosecutors, y'all second, judges, y'all third, lawmakers, y'all fourth. I don't care what it is, but those billionaires who own Walmart and, you know, all these corporations, they're saying, we need that 5-cent labor. We need that. And guess what, KG? They are, after about 60 years old, they don't want you in prison no more because now you're not an asset. You are literally costing them more because you got to have operations and medicine. That's why we see them literally direct filing 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old black children as adults, putting them into the prison because they want younger, stronger slaves.
Yes, indeed. Oh, my God. You better speak on it. Man, Attorney Ben Crump, you're listening to Access Houston. I remember the point that I was making now, all because, and I don't even know if a lot of people know this, the original reason why marijuana is considered a Class A1 felony. There was a man, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name, but this was back in like the 20s or the 30s.
Okay.
And he went to Congress to say that we need to make this drug, marijuana, illegal because when people smoke it, it will make our white women want to have sex with black men, and it will make the Negro forget his place in society.
Wow.
That's why weed is illegal.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah, look it up. And when I learned that, I was like, are you kidding me? One lone man went to Congress and had this argument that it's going to make white women sleep with black men, and it's going to make the Negro forget his place in society.
And that's so deep, KG, because there are whole volumes of law based on the sanctity of white women. I mean, when you think about the Tulsa Black Wall Street Massacre, they try to call it race riot, but it was a massacre. Only one white person died, and almost 1,000 black people died.
And I'm sure that one white person was the guy that went to the bank to get the loan for the house, and his friends came back and was like, well, wait a minute, how you get this money? Oh, I went over there to the black. They probably killed him because he went over there and started the whole thing.
And a lot of it was based on the white woman alleging she was raped by a black man.
Oh, no, I didn't know that story. That's one of the ones, too.
Yeah, and so that's what all these riots and insurrections have to deal with a white woman that's saying that she was defiled in some way, even though many times they found that it was completely consensual. And it was just something that white people could justify getting emotional and say, that's one straw too many. We're going to go kill these N-words.
Mm-hmm. And so to that point, what is it that we have to do to make these folks, I don't know, happy or feel comfortable or whatever? You tell us, pull yourself up by your bootstraps when we ain't got no boots. We make our own boots. We do it. And then once we do, oh, well, you can't have that.
Well,
you can't do this. We come up with our own stuff and you still continue to disregard us and put us down. So what do you want?
Well, two things to address that, KG. One of the big things we address is the legal aspects of America was founded as a slave-owning nation. And even our Constitution was flawed in many ways at the beginning because they allowed for slavery and the counting of black people to be only 3/5 of a citizen.
Right.
It was all because of capital, profit, and so forth. So the question you ask, no matter what the response is, they still want us to be underclass citizens. They still want to be able to just make money off the backs of black and brown people. They never want you to raise yourself up by your bootstraps and be equal to them. In fact, everything in the law seems to suggest that's the opposite of what they crave. It is literally always, when you look at all the Supreme Court decisions, I don't care what the issue was, it is literally black and brown people, people of color are always going to get the most of injustice and the least of justice. I don't care what the facts are.
Yeah.
And then number two, I will say this. I wrote this book in many ways.
I can't wait to get into it. Ben
Franklin said that democracy is like two wolves and a lamb voting what to have for lunch. You don't have to be a genius.
Two wolves and a lamb.
You don't have to be a genius to know how that vote gonna go, KG. Yeah. But he said liberty is making sure that lamb is well armed to protest that vote. And so with Open Season Book, what we try to do is make sure young lambs in communities of color are well armed to protest the school to prison pipeline, well armed to protest voter suppression, well armed to protest environmental racism that would see, young people in South Central Los Angeles have a third of the lung capacity as children living in Santa Monica, California, because they have legalized making toxic, pollutant, poisonous chemical corporations able to exist in our communities where our children live and breathe and go to school every day. Well armed to protest racist Jim Crow laws like Stand Your Ground. Got to make sure they're well armed.
That needs to be amended.
Yeah, it needs to be. Don't get me started.
Okay, yeah, because you ain't got no time.
Yeah, and I'll say this last. We got to make sure they're well armed to protest the prison industrial complex.
Yes,
that would see many minorities. When most people go to jail, KG, they only worried about whether or not they're going to lose their constitutional rights. But minorities, especially women of color, they not only have to worry about losing their constitutional rights, they also have to worry about losing their reproductive rights. Because as late as 2014 in California, it was documented that black women and Hispanic women in prison were being coerced into forced sterilizations. And it was legal. And as late as 2017 in the state of Tennessee, you had judges standing up in open court telling black men who look like you and me, they were literally saying, we will reduce your 12-year sentence by 10 years if you would just agree to be sterilized.
You gotta be.
It's literally.
Stop playing, Attorney Crump.
Yeah, literally genocide, figuratively and literally, and it is all legal. So
what year is this?
Yeah, and so we trying to hold this mirror to America's face, KG, and say, you're better than this, America. You know, look at the hypocrisy. You're better than this.
Oh, my gosh. Listen, we got a lot of work to do. I could talk to you for hours.
And so hopefully everybody, I want to thank your audience, because the book has been in the top 25 now on Amazon for the last 2 weeks since it was released. So hopefully everybody will keep ordering the book. And America needs to have this conversation. We need to talk about it with our children. Because our children got to understand that 1 in 5 black men in America are convicted felons, and they believe if that trend continues in the next 25 years, it'll be 1 in 3. So what I tell audiences when I'm speaking, KJ, I say, think about if you're a parent of a black child and you have a son and you have a nephew and you have a male cousin, and they're about 5, 6 years old, what have you, just observe them for a few minutes and try to figure out which one of them are going to be a convicted felon in the next 15 to 20 years and live the life of a permanent underclass citizen in America.
That's a good little case study there. And we also got to stop this private prison business, especially here in the state of Texas. I mean, they are guaranteed 97% occupancy.
Boy, y'all, especially the death penalty.
Oh, my gosh. It's just, listen, I know you got to go. Oh, ladies.
But y'all elected all these black judges, so we making progress. We can control it.
No doubt.
In the aftermath of Michael Brown, we elected the first black prosecutor in St. Louis. Aftermath of Trayvon Martin, we elected the first black prosecutor in the state of Florida in Orlando. Aftermath of Tamir Rice, who we represented in Cleveland, got rid of that prosecutor. So we are the change we seek. We just got to be committed to doing it and not just make it a social media talking point.
That's
we
right.
got to get out and go to court, because one of the hardest things, KJ, I always say, hardest thing for a black lawyer to do is to go in the courtroom with his black client, and the only thing black is you, your client, and the judge's robe, and all the black people who've been called for jury duty
don't show up.
Yeah, don't show up trying to get out of jury duty, and you're like, your vote matters.
It does.
It's going to save this black child life, but
that's right.
you too busy.
Do it.
Yeah.
You don't want to do jury duty because, I preach the same thing. Attorney Crump. Attorney Benjamin Crump.
Thank you, KJ.
Legalized Genocide of Colored People open season out right now. Pick it up. I cannot wait to get into this. This has been the interview that I didn't know that I really needed in my life that happened, and I'm so glad it did. So thank you for your time, and thank you to the amazing LaToya Lemon of Limelight Media for setting this up last second. This is great. And it's going to be on my podcast as well.
KJ, I just got to thank you, man, because when brothers like you use your voice and your influence to speak truth to power, it matters, man. When you have Catherine Hughes say, no, we're going to be unapologetically black because they're killing our children, it matters. And so they tell me to tell everybody to add Attorney Crump. That's my Instagram and Twitter.
And all your social. Add Attorney Crump. That's all of his social.
Attorney spelled out.
Yeah.
But KG, I really appreciate you,
thank
brother.
you. I
more than
that.
You know.
I purposely use this platform for just that, for us to be more aware. I tell it like it is. Even when I have, the great Derek Muhammad, who's an activist here in Houston, when he says to me, boy, you ain't scared. Like, I thought I was radical. You ain't scared at all. I was like, we got to speak truth to power. So thank you for those kind words, and thank you for coming on the program.
Hey, man, I look forward to coming back, and let's continue to try to fight for our children.
Indeed.
Yep.
And thank you.
And you let me know what you think about the book.
Oh, I absolutely will. Cannot wait to get into it. Attorney Benjamin Crump, thank you so much. And thank you for listening to Access Houston.